Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you back on the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and we are looking at player props for Game 3 NBA Finals back in Dallas, hoping that the return home for Dallas might mean a little bit of an awakening for some of the players that have not yet really joined the series with us here. We'll be taking a look at player props in this one. Also have a best bet specific video in a separate episode, so make sure you are subscribed to that page and continue to follow along with us the rest of this postseason. Also want you to head to thelines.com and use that prop finder tool that we're using every day that we make these picks, as we get to see all of the player props available to us from all of these books, giving us bets and get the best odds and lines, I should say, available as well. So, Nate, let's go ahead and jump right into your first NBA player prop here for Game 3. A man that you faded last time, but we know it's not about what happened last game. We're just moving forward here.
No, it wasn't even about what happened after the first 5 minutes when I was like, okay, I am so wrong about Drew not looking for his offense that I'm just going to live bet his PRA, which is only 21.5 after a nice start where he had like 6-2-1. And now, look, I wanted to go 10.5 rebounds and assists. So did everybody else, it appears, because that was about even money. And now it's minus 140-ish at most sites because they've just been taking bets on that because he's cleared it rather easily so far in these first two in the finals and in the last two to close out Indiana. So I think maybe let's just say that the full PRA 23.5 if you want good juice here. I mean, he'll continue to score around 12 to 14 points, even though I think his 26-point outburst was a little bit unsustainable, but he'll just do whatever is necessary. Like the most valuable guy in Game 2, sure. But like he's just been the ultimate Swiss Army knife for the Celtics team. And the reason that things are so different for them than they were in previous playoff runs, because he's just out there making zero mistakes, zero turnovers in his first two games, which is he has the second most points since MJ. Only MJ, more points since to start the finals without a turnover. And the assists are there for him to start going up, right? I mean, he has 3 assists on 10 potentials in Game 2, whereas Tatum 12 on his 13 potentials. So that those two things are going to meet in the middle for sure. On average, Drew getting 9.5 potentials, only 4 assists so far. In Game 2, yeah, he went from being like an afterthought on offense to very much a facilitator as they kind of adjusted their offense based on how Dallas was going to adjust their defense after Game 1. So he went from 6th in front court touches to 3rd, right behind the Jays. And we saw the result, making fantastic plays. Now Porzingis is a little bit hobbled, and we don't know how much that's going to affect his production or his playing time, which we know he probably would be around 20 minutes, even if he didn't aggravate that injury. Now probably looking at 15, 18 minutes maybe, if he doesn't just get hurt and wind up not finishing the game. You know, I'm thinking about the under PRA for him because of that. Just like, let's just bet on him, like winding up going to the locker room. But Drew has gone over in 7 of 10 without him in these playoffs in terms of the rebounds, assists. And of course, he went over in the first two in the finals game. And yeah, just rebounds wise, he's leading the team. 15 rebound chances in the last 4 games here and grabbing 9.3 of these, now up to 16.5 in the first two in the finals, as he's been able to do that despite guarding Kyrie and Luka plenty. But he's just such a fantastic rebounding guard. And so good coming off the weak side and not deferring on those boards. It's him and Tatum who are the most frequent rebounders. So I think if you're looking at something to stand alone, it might be just the boards here, but I really trust Drew to just get the total package going and do the PRA because he'll provide whatever the Celtics need in his 40-ish minutes.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I prefer the PR more than anything. But like to your point, Jason Tatum had 12 dimes on 13, potentials. For Jaylen Brown also had a really high, but he had like 7 dimes on like 9 potential. So both of them in the same boat there. And yeah, I think that things sort of come back to the averages. For Drew, I think he's just going to continue being in good spots to get those rebounds because he's coming in from the corner a lot, which either means that he's going up against Luka for a board, which is about a 50-50 matchup, despite Luka probably having about 4 inches on him. And then there's also the weak side. Like if he's coming from the non-Luka side, well, there's really nobody that's playing the Luka just stand down in the corner and guard the baseline on one side of the hoop thing. So Drew keeps getting those. I really like the rebounds a ton for him. But yeah, 0 problems with the points. I do want to keep going back to the 2 threes for him if you want to keep adding those, but he's only taken 9 total now in the first 2 games, but has made 2 in each of them. Feels like we're playing with fire with that, because I can't explain to you why those threes aren't going up a little bit more from the corner for him. It's not like he's not looking to. Maybe Dallas is guarding a little bit better. I'd have to look a little bit more closely at it, but it's weird to me because this is a terrible defensive team against the corner 3, and Drew is playing predominantly over there. So I would love for him to take a few more of them, but the points are coming. He was 9 for 9 in the paint last game, by the way, and was their down low presence. So just adds to him being in the right spot at the right time to get all of his stats here. So let me go ahead and take Jaylen Brown as my first pick here. This should be 22, 23 and a half. We're definitely getting a little bit of love here at 21 and a half. I mean, I'm surprised that we haven't seen the books do what they are doing with most players, which is like most players, they're just now taking their playoff averages and making it their prop and going, what do you guys want to research now to figure it out? Like, this is what he's been doing for a decent enough sample size of almost 20 games that we're going to leave it at that. Well, he's at 24 and a half points per game in the playoffs, and on the road, which they've only played 6 road games because they closed out so many series so quickly before this one, and are in line to do it right now too. That in the 6 playoff games that he's played, he's averaging 24 and a half. He's also averaging 24 and a half at home. By the way, there's just been a lot more games. So his hit rate is about 60% going over 21 and a half at home. And it's like I said, whatever 5 divided by 6 is as a percentage, better than 80%, like 85% of the games on the road this playoffs, he's gone over as well. On the season, averaging more than this, maybe there's an expectation that he's going to tighten up, but I just wanted to make clear that as far as his averages go, this is well under it. And for a guy that's taking 18 shots a game in the playoffs on the road, and actually one more shot that he's taking on the road than he is at home, which makes sense as well when you consider that role players do a little bit worse on the road. JB, as one of the stars, is going to take a few more shots, and he'll have a bit more of a green light, even because look, he has as much of a green light as he wants. We know that. But on the road, it's almost like there's more of an expectation that he's going to carry some scoring alongside Jason Tatum, who has not yet joined the scoring brigade yet for this Boston team, relative to him anyway, averaging 17 points in the first 2. But for Brown, it's the type of shots that he's taking as well. Now, he went 1 for 5 in the last game from 3. He also had 6 turnovers on his 21 points in game 2. So, right, like he was fine from the line, didn't even take that many free throws. Also, the turnovers is way out of line for him. That's more than twice as many as he's averaging in the playoffs, and during the regular season, he averaged 2.3. So those 6 turnovers, which 3 of them, by the way, were just lost. There wasn't like an errant pass. It was just a dribble off his foot. Somebody swipes in from behind him. He's not really aware of it, and he loses the ball that way. So they weren't necessarily, they're definitely avoidable turnovers, and something that I think he'll maintain moving forward, closer to 2 to 3 turnovers, not 6, which just cuts down like 3 possessions where he's got the ball in his hands and has opportunities to score. Well, he just lost those, obviously, right? Which is why coaches hate turnovers more than anything, is like you didn't even get a shot up. But for those things turning around positively for him, I fully expect that. The other thing about the matchup that I'll say is PJ Washington's awesome. Has been awesome since he got to Dallas. Has been, and like I said at the beginning of the series, like it makes way more sense for PJ Washington to be on Jaylen Brown than anybody else, like Jason Tatum or whatnot, because JB is a bully. Has not been able to bully PJ. Now, last game he did not score a point when PJ was the primary defender. But that's okay, because this whole series is about switching, and everybody else not named PJ Washington got a bit of the business from Jaylen Brown in this last game. In fact, 3 of those threes were wide open, to the point that there wasn't even a primary defender. Like the NBA stats team was like, well, we don't have a primary defender for this 3-point shot, so I guess none, right? So he just missed 3 beyond wide open, like uncontested, and then some, right? There was nobody within 6 feet of him. So expect a little bit better there. Make 1 more 3, you're obviously good. He's also averaged more than the 4 free throws he took last game over the course of these playoffs, up at about 6. So we expect that to continue. And the transition buckets as well have been there in spades for him, and something that I think he'll continue to try to take advantage of, because obviously this Dallas defense, not obviously, but I'm telling you, it is a little bit better at home as a defense, which does lead to then the need for him to sort of beat the defense down the floor in transition, and hope that Dallas can't set up its defense, which is what Jaylen Brown does as much as anybody in the league, and certainly the most on his team. So I'll keep going back to him to get 22 points in this game. Not going to overthink it, not going to get cute with alt stuff. Just say this is too low. I think he's good for 24 to 25 in this one once again.
Yeah, the Celtics are at their best when they are getting multiple guys around 20, and they've just been at their best through 2 games, right? So that's why it is down, is because they're like, Oh, books are like they're so balanced. Like it seems kind of unlikely that Jalen's going for 25 here, especially with his defensive responsibility. But you can't expect that to just continue for the Celtics to just be like a perfect execution machine. Now that they hit the road here, like there's going to be some bumps in the road, right? Dallas is going to switch some things up about their defense and be like, you know what, Jaylen Brown, we dare you to go to the basket or to hit a turnaround mid range shot, and he's proven capable of doing it. So I think that will give him some more opportunities to get his points up a little bit, and Tatum as well, who's just struggled to shoot. But that kind of brings me to my bet here, which is Luka is plus 125 to lead the first half in scoring and minus 180 to lead the game. And that doesn't make any sense to me, that discrepancy. Like maybe you'd say it's more likely just because of the larger sample side that it leads the game. Sure. But like dude has been way better in the first half throughout the playoffs because he just doesn't have incredible stamina, and because it's his approach, right? He's like, I'm going to come out, see how I'm feeling, and then force you to start doubling me, and then I'll get everybody else going. Not the typical point guard approach, but it's what's working for Dallas and Boston, because they don't double him ever, have been like, all right, we're going to have to live with that. Like, can you hit all these shots? And obviously last game he did. He was insane. He had 20 points in the first 15 minutes and basically only sat 1 minute of the first half. Almost got it in game one as well, if not for the crazy Porzingis explosion, right? I mean, Porzingis had 18. Luka had a quiet 17, I would say. Quiet because Dallas's offense was so putrid and they had 42, and he somehow still came away with about 17. And so, like, the Celtics are so balanced that I don't really see anybody consistently being 15 to 20 points. Like, they have a spike here or there. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but like, I mean, Tatum, I don't think is going off for 20 with Dallas still putting all those eyes on him, playing almost as matchup zone behind him, and that the shooting regression cannot be so strong that he's suddenly dropping like 25 in the first half. I guess he's the biggest threat here, though, because, yeah, I don't think Porzingis is doing that again. I don't think Drew Holiday is going to be Shaq in the paint. And Luka is going to be an absolute killer. I mean, like I said, they have 3+ threes in the first half in 5 of his last 6. He's averaging in his last 7, 18 in the first half, shooting 44%. And you see the amount of aggression, right? 1 fewer assist in the first versus the second half, 4 more points in the first half, 5 more field goal attempts as he comes out and looks to get himself going. And then there's the factor that, like, dude is the best scorer in playoff history after a loss. And now we're talking back-to-back losses for the first time in these playoffs. And, like, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to come out and score and be like, look, boss, like, you got to double team me. And then I'm going to get my guys going. So that's what I trust most here is Luka to come out aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the best playoff performers already in history. And the man is 25. Just want to remind everybody, he is 25. He's been a professional since he was like 13. So whatever. But just everything you set aside, you could have ended at the first one, which is like, well, they mispriced this compared to how they priced the full game for him. So I'll just take it plus 125. It's just that simple. Minus 180 for the game. You're totally right there. I'm trying to think of a reason that would be, and it's broken in my head. I mean, maybe Kyrie does what he's done twice now in this playoffs and comes out strong, gets double digits in the first half. I'm not banking on that. Like their recipe for success all postseason has been Luka opens things up and just pins you against the wall, and then Kyrie comes in and provides the finishing move in the second half. Just Kyrie hasn't shown up yet in the second half, which is why this thing is 2-0 with an average margin of victory that's double digits right now in the first 2 games. So I'm with all of that for sure. I'm going to close it out with another Luka bet. I mean, look, is there anything more reliable in this series than Luka doing his thing and getting 26 to 30 shots? No, there is not. In fact, if Luka would freaking hit a free throw, it's the unbelievable that it's still the worst part of his game is the free throw, which if you look at the mechanics of it makes sense, but we'll save that for another time. More importantly, I'm taking a similar parlay that I've taken. Look, you turned me on to this parlay. Luka 30 points, 3+ rebounds, 8+ boards. You took this like 5 games ago as 25 points, 8 rebounds, 3 threes. Well, I'm taking 30. 8 rebounds and 3 threes, and I'm fine with it. And it was actually, I took it last game for plus 105. I took it again closer to tip because Luka was got that late questionable tag. So this got bumped up to plus 150, like 3 hours before tip of last game. keep an eye on that. If we get some weird, wonky, like, well, Luka's hurt. Yeah, we know he's hurt. He's not playing. You don't need to tell us that he's hurt. He's going to play. Like, you're going to have to chop his leg off. But for this one, like, this is just, look, it's a hit rate here, man. He's done this now in the playoffs since he got healthy, which I'm considering basically the very end of the Clippers series and into that really mostly the OKC series and on. He's now done this 90% of the time that he's since that time period. And the only times he missed on this was when he failed to get the 3 threes in one of those games against OKC. So he's doing this almost the entire time that he's playing right now, which is at about 40 to 44 minutes every game. The 30-plus points he's now gotten in 7 of his last 9 games. 10 rebounds, much less 8 rebounds, he's gotten in 10 of his last 12 games. So there is like a pretty clear delineation between Luka not close to full strength, Luka much closer to full strength. And since that time period, this is something he's doing, like I said, 90% of the time. So there's no reason to believe that like things are going to sort of change for him from a standpoint of the threes either. He's taking so many of them that he doesn't need to shoot better than 33% to get the 3 threes. The 4 threes he's also hit, by the way, in all of his last 7 games as well. And you mentioned he's hit the 3 threes in the first half of his last 6 games. So like this almost hit in the first half last game where he had 20. He made us sweat because he did slow down so much in the second half where he only had 11 points in the second half, 20 in the first. And we had to really wait, or I'm 32, I believe, but we had to earn it, right? We had to wait for the basically like 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter for him to get the 30 points. But back home, back like with the 3 days that we're getting in between each game as well, this is just an easy one for me at minus 101. I'm going to keep going back to it until it's like just the juice isn't worth it at that point.
Yeah, the 3 threes in the first half. He had 8 rebounds in the second half of those last games. So, right. I mean, he can cover these 2 numbers just with spurts. And like I said, yeah, only missed 1 minute of the first half. I think like just is telling J Kidd, like, I don't care. Like I'm out here right now. I don't care if I'm getting beat on defense a little bit. Like, obviously you need me out there. You need me to drop 30. Like, I'm surprised that he only wound up with 32. Based on how he started that game, obviously, because it was just like that's the way Boston was defending him in game 1, was daring him to beat them one-on-one. And he was like, all right, I can do that. Then kind of had a rough second half. They were sending a little more help and he was able to capitalize. But I think he will sustain that a little bit more. I don't think it's all about the injury or his wind or whatever. Like, I think it's just about understanding what Boston's throwing at him and being able to continue to execute down the stretch.
And I'm not worried about Kyrie having a bounce back game and that eating into Luka, because Kyrie could have had a bounce back game with the amount that he's been shooting. He just hasn't been making them. It's not like he stopped shooting. He's still at 18 at least field goal attempts in the first 2 games for Kyrie. So Luka happy to like let somebody else do it whenever they want to. But I think it's clear, man. Like, Luka, you gotta be as aggressive as possible. When he slowed down in the third quarter of last game and really didn't seem like he could do as much. We saw what happened, right? They ended up going down with that 9-point deficit going into the fourth quarter. So that is all the time that we have for you in this one. Continue to follow along and subscribe to that page so you don't miss any of these championship series videos that we are bringing you moving forward, including best bets that we do have up in a separate one alongside these player props. And so until we do see you next, happy betting.